mom.
As a dad of three children, two of them teenagers, and one of them is just done a GCSEs. I get this whole idea. And I've had conversations with them because I remember what it was like to be that age. I remember what I was like at that age, and it wasn't brilliant. And I remember where I am now, and you kind of go through this developmental pathway. We all do. And I remember saying to my daughter, look, she's now 16, but kind of like 15 last year. I say to her, look, I can see things that you can't see, but you will not believe any of that because while you respect me as your dad to some degree, you will also go, these adults, they know nothing. They know nothing at all. And I said, you won't believe me. You'll just have to go and make your own mistakes. But just trust that I've got your best interests at heart. And there was a funny quote which I read a while back now, which was it was a teenager. So it was a guy's 20 when he was a teenager. He said it was amazing. He said at 13, he said, I thought my parents were just really stupid. And he said, when I got to 20, I was surprised by how much they'd improved. And it's just this whole idea that actually at 13, 14, 15, you're never going to see your parents for what they are, which is, completely loving and caring on the whole. They want you to do the best. They're looking out for you. They're scared shitless about what might happen to you. You can't see it because you don't want to see it, because you believe you're right and everyone else is wrong. When you get to 20, you see the world from a very, very different place. And then when you have children, oh God. I mean, I'm sure I've apologized to my parents many times and gone, now I understand what a twat I was, and I'm really sorry, because you're in a very different position. But it's just the way things are. It's the way things are.
Yeah. And that's so true. Like you have to let people experience life as they experience it.
Well, we're coaching people. Most people don't get coaching because they don't see the value in it. And the only people who tend to see the value in coaching is coaches and people who've been coached before, because they've been through that process. So my question is, well, how do you introduce something which is, and I'll use the word powerful because it is powerful, something as powerful as coaching to people who just don't get it? And the reality is that you have to introduce it very gently. You have to drop in these little kind of seeds and let them germinate and grow. And that could take minutes, it could take days, it could take months, it could take a lifetime. And you just have to wait for people to see. And so I get people come to me saying, yeah, I'd like to talk about coaching. Cool. Okay. What have you done so far? I haven't done anything. Right. So in that case, then what you need to do is you need to go away and look at this resource and then come back to me a bit later on, because you're not ready. You're not ready to get the benefit from it, and you have to be ready for it. And a lot of people just aren't ready. A lot of people won't be ready for what you talk about. A lot of people will hear what you talk about, and they will probably have a desire to go to the toilet where they're sitting. They will suddenly stop being constipated. They will really feel uncomfortable doing it. And then there'll be a small selection of the audience who will take a bit of your advice and do something and get amazing results. Always the way. And that's what you're there for. You're there to influence one person at one point.
Yeah.
And that's the biggest bit of advice I would give you, because I think the numbers for the Foot and Ankle show, it's, I believe, 1,200 people.
Fuck.
I meant to say that. Oh, sorry.
No, why did you tell me? I didn't. I'm gonna just blank this out of my memory box.
It's a beautiful experience. And what we'll do, no, you'll be there, and we'll walk you through it. We'll look after you. We'll get you up on stage beforehand when there's not many people there, so you can feel what it's like to be there and get used to it. But you are only ever talking to one person. It's all you're ever talking to. You're not talking to a room full of people. You're talking to one person at a time. You look at that person on the front row, and then you look at that one and that one, then 2 rows back, 3 rows back, and you just look at different people, and you deliver different parts of your presentation to different people at every point. You don't think about delivering it to a whole room of people. It's one person at a time.
Oh.
Conversation between you and one person. Just think that you are sat there delivering your presentation to one person. That's it. That's all you have to do.
I'm like shitting myself.
It's all right. Don't worry. I'll get up on stage and I'll have a little accident as well, probably. So I'll make sure. I'll make sure I've got my tenor man in place, probably. So
wait, I can't believe that did you ask to present me on stage?
I did.
Oh my God, that's amazing. What are you gonna say? Can I know?
I don't know what I'm going to say yet.
Okay.
I honestly don't know. But I
Can
do.
you
But I do know that it's going to be complementary because, and I'll tell you why. And your head can swell, and you might not be able to get back out of the house later. But what I see in what you do is, I just think it's amazing. I just think that it's so influential and it has the potential to change the industry completely. And that if while there's people out there who are going, I want to learn about biomechanics and I want to learn about dermatology and all that stuff, yes, that's good. But we can't change the industry and we can't change the perception of the industry unless we're out there as personalities showing off what we do. That's what you help people with. So yeah, I just and also it was to reassure you as well. It was actually to be able to build you up. So when you go out on stage, you're kind of hyped up because I see the difference that you make, and I want other people to see that difference that you make as well. I can't control that, obviously,
Yeah.
but if I can help you to feel in kind of a better state, because I know you're going to be nervous. And good. You need to be nervous because it's a big thing, but you're going to smash it. It's going to be brilliant.
Oh gosh, I hope so. We were doing presentations in our first year to just our classmates, and I remember I got a really good mark for it, but I just remember shaking the entire time. And so do you remember my buddy Freddie, the foot skeleton?
Yes.
He was in all my videos in the early days. So I remember holding him up as a prop because I was trying to explain, what was I talking about? Oh, so I was doing Davis's and Wolf's Law, and I was talking about heel spurs and just kind of explaining like anatomy and stuff like that. So holding him up, and my hands were shaking. And I realized that my hand was shaking so much that Freddie was shaking. And I was like, I can't do anatomy. I'm just going to have to chuck him aside. So mid-presentation, I tossed him aside. I continued talking. And I was like, okay, this is your heel. Just pretend this is your, and I kept going. And it was kind of funny. But yeah, I remember like just in a classroom full of people with my lecturers and stuff like that. Like I was just shaking. Like I had so much chamomile tea. I was trying to like calm myself down. Nothing worked. So I think I need to like practice this speech. The only thing that got me through that and without stalling was I had practiced in front of a mirror and I tried to get this speech memorized. It was only 5 minutes. But what got me through that presentation was just practicing for like weeks in front of a mirror. And then I would toss my script aside and then I would talk to myself in like a fucking lunatic, but I would talk to myself in front of the mirror and just do the speech again and again. So I think I'm going to have to like use that same strategy.
Yeah. I mean, familiarity with the content is really important. Yeah. And that's one of the things which I emceeing 2 years ago with the foot and ankle, I did a session on the Saturday morning. A couple of people promised they'd show up and didn't because they were out drinking the night before. So I won't beat them with a stick. So I know my subject enough that I can put a word on the screen and talk about it for a couple of minutes. And it might be that the order in which it comes out is different to the order in which I wrote it, but it always feels very natural. And I think there's a sweet spot between rote learning of your kind of presentation and just delivering it like you're reading a monologue versus actually really struggling with the content. And there's a sweet spot in the middle, which is, well, I know my stuff, and it might just be that actually somebody reacts in an audience in a particular way and I flip it slightly, or I look at someone and I say, right, for example, you tell me, and then I might ask a question. So what do you think about this? If I had to ask, what's the I can't remember what the question was. I always, a lot of the stuff I do is I'll put my hand up and go, right, who agrees with this? Well, and you get audience interaction, and then you put it down and it goes, who thinks this? And you put the other arm, and who doesn't really care? And you put both arms up, and you play around with it a little bit. And it might be that if you were to ask the audience, how many of you are shit scared of personal branding and using humor in your business? It might be 2 people put the hand up when you expected everyone to put the hand up and go, that's really unusual. I think some of you are lying. And you could start to play around with it. But yeah, it's practice. One of the key things I found was practicing it to music works quite well. So you have a little bit of music in there. So when you're thinking about the kind of the rhythm of your speaking and what you're talking about, you've got this rhythmic track kind of in the background, which you've got used to having, not loud, but just enough so that you can kind of hear it and you can kind of revisit it. And then you just think of that music when you are delivering. But it works for some, doesn't work for others. Play around with it.
Yeah, that's really good.
You don't have to. I mean, one of the things I really enjoy about speaking is I like moving around the stage. So if you stick me behind a lectern, I'm not particularly good. Give me a roving mic and I'm wandering. I would wander up and down the aisles and deliver stuff quite happily, because I like the energy from that and I like moving around and it keeps everyone energized in the room. But there are some people who go, I need to stand behind a lectern and not move. That's equally cool.
Yeah, I agree. I'm more of the moving person. I cannot stay in one spot. So I think the clicker thing is going to be really good for me because then I can just, is it like a microphone or is it the thing that's like an earpiece?
You can do it different. I think from it, if they use the same kind of PA as before, there's different ways you can do it. I like a clipper one. I like to look like I'm like a salesperson or like I'm one of those calls in a call center. It's like the microphone here, but you can have a handy one you can stand around with if you want, but you can have a clipper one. But we'll get you set up for that. So we'll make sure we come and get you probably 20 minutes before you're due on, if not slightly more. We'll get you set up with mics. You'll be down the front. We'll introduce you. We got it covered. There's 4 of us. Okay. There's 4 of us doing the emceeing, so there's plenty of people around, and we'll make sure we look after you.
Okay.
Our job's to look after you, so you can get up there and be awesome.
Okay. I'm so nervous. I'm like really excited too.
Oh, I'm nervous. Absolutely, because there's lots of things going through my head, but I know that when I get up there, I'll enjoy it. I will love the experience. And then I know for the week after, you will find me, cowering in a corner with my, rocking backwards and forwards with my knees up at my chest and my arms like this, because I'll just need to go back to introverted mode for a week afterwards.
Yeah, same. I think like it just things like that, like the energy you get from it is just so intoxicating, but at the same time, like it can be really, really draining. But for like draining in a good sense. So I think I may need to like isolate after that as well. Just be cocooned in my room.
I would make sure you've got some time off the week after.
Yeah.
Every time I've presented at a big show, I've needed time off afterwards. And depending on the size of the show, depends on how much time I need off. Primary care was over. I think I did the first day or the second day. I think I did a presentation. That wasn't too bad, and that was good. Smaller room, wasn't too bad. Didn't need much time to recover from that. Foot and ankle show, probably a good 3-4 days at least, if not the week. And the same with Osgo Live, so its predecessor. When I emceed that the first time, emceed that, and then when I presented the next year, it's such a high, and it's not just presenting; it's being around people, and you'll get loads of people come to you and say it was brilliant, thanks for that, and you'll feel all that energy from it as well, and it'll be a real high, and then you kind of come out of it, and it will just drift off. It generally does. It's fun.
It is fun. I think I would honestly encourage everybody to just, even if it is a soapbox, but just get up and start talking. Even if it is in your room. I used to do this when I was little, and one of my dreams was I remember like telling this to my partner on a date. So corny, but one of my dreams was to do a TED Talk. I love TED Talks. I think they're so inspiring, and each one, even though they're on a similar topic, each person presenting that TED Talk is so vastly unique and different, and you pick up so many different things from it. And I'm like, I would love to just inspire people. This is so like egotistical that I'm saying this, and I'm fully aware. But I would love to just inspire a group of people that way, even like young physicians or students that are thinking of going into healthcare. I would love to just inspire them to be more out there and be more themselves. Because I think the worst thing you can do is mute your own personality because of your job. I think that's so soul destroying. And I think that's what makes a lot of jobs very soul destroying, is because they kind of like shove you into this box, and you're a circle. You're not going to fit in that. Well, maybe you might fit in that box. And my math is not so sexy. But but my point is that a lot of jobs do end up like they kind of diluting. You have to dilute your personality to be able to fit in. And that's what makes jobs even long-term jobs, that's what makes them so stagnant. And you're like, I'm not growing in this because I'm not allowed to be you're not allowed to be yourself. That's why you're not growing. I think it's very obvious, but the minute you start being yourself, I think you're just going to upset some people naturally.
You can upset people naturally by conforming and by going along with everyone else and by not bringing your personality. You're always going to upset someone. I mean, I'm very, very clear on my values. So love, learning, freedom, and fun. Those are my 4 values. And I look back at every decision I ever made and go, oh, was I having fun? Probably not. That's why I probably stopped doing it. And I ran my clinic for 8 years and loved it. My clinic was absolutely brilliant. But there was a point I got to where I wasn't having the fun that I wanted. And also I didn't have the freedom that I wanted. And, you talk about, okay, maybe being egotistical about influencing other people. I could see 30 patients in a week and I could influence 30 patients a week. But if I work with other people who work with other people, and I work with 30 people who each can influence 30 people a week, I mean, what's the maths on that? 9,900. That's 900 people that I can indirectly influence a week. Do the maths, or if we were talking about sort of the US, the math on that one, and suddenly you are looking at, well, what's the impact over 10 days? Well, 10 days, that's 9,000. What's the impact over 100 days? And suddenly it starts to have this big effect. And why not? And what we, one of the big kind of conversations around podiatry is around recruitment. Average age podiatrist is what, 46 to 56 average. So we're looking at a lot of people who are either going to sell the practices or want to sell the practices or not and retire or leave the NHS and retire. Where are the people who are replacing them coming from? And if we're out there influencing potential A-level students about podiatry, or talking to parents who can influence their kids or who themselves want to actually retrain because they're not happy in their role, then brilliant, that helps the profession. But we can't do that while we're all looking a bit samey. And we're all, we're not talking about the things which are really important and not showing people that you can bring your personality into it and you can have some fun.
Mm-hmm.
But then I could just have made that up, but I'm sure I didn't.
It sounded great, even if you didn't make
it up. It's a manifesto of fun. You've got to put your head above the parapet. You've got to do things differently to attract people. I mean, Seth Godin talks about this with in his book Purple Cow, which I don't think is a book about past relationships. I think it's a book about that's about marketing. That's why. And he basically says if you're driving down a country lane and you see cows, it's cows. You see a purple cow, you're like, fuck me, a purple cow. You pay attention to it. And I'm not saying that everyone should become a purple podiatrist. We've already got one of those, and she's amazing. But
she is, yeah.
She's stunning, isn't she? She's fantastic. But I love that girl so much. She's wonderful. But it's by standing out, people pay attention to you. Stand out enough, people pay more attention to you. They'll decide whether they like you or not. And yeah, it becomes more fun that way.
No, I 100% agree. There was something that you'd said about your private practice that I want to kind of. I'm a little surprised you said this because, so I know. So you were saying like private practice, it took away your freedom, because I would think that with private practice you gain a lot of freedom. I mean, that's how kind of, I guess it's a little bit sold to us that way.
I know that's a really good question. I think what an individual defines as freedom is probably what dictates that. So when I worked for the NHS, I'll go back a bit further. When I worked for the NHS as a team leader, the first probably 3 years of that, so mid 2009 to mid 2012, was amazing. So within the constraints of the NHS, I had freedom. We had the chance to train. We were doing 50% clinical, 50% kind of team leader work. I was able to go and network and really kind of get to know other people in the hospital and other services and see how we fitted into that. I had the flexibility to kind of manage my own caseload, so I could do DOMs and home visits at different times to fit in with that. We had projects we ran. It was brilliant. I really, really loved it. There was a point though when the hospital took over where suddenly the constraints changed and the freedom we had got reduced and our finances got reduced because the hospital was in debt. And they were like, oh, you've got excess money, we'll take that. And that's fine. That's the economics of healthcare, and I get that. But I got to a point where for me, I wasn't having the freedom to help the patients in the way which I knew I could, for me to be at my best to do that. So that's why I left the NHS. But in private practice is freedom, because you get to choose your own working hours, you get to choose how you pay yourself, what you charge. There's that element of freedom. But when you have a private practice, it's a 24/7 gig. 24/7, 365. You never, ever stop thinking about your private practice. You never, ever, it never leaves your mind, because you're thinking about, have I got patients who, if I've had a patient who's had a problem this week, or you do surgery on a patient, you might well go away thinking, did I do everything that I should have done? Was everything okay? Or am I going to get in trouble if something goes wrong? And you have these thoughts which you carry with you all the time. The responsibility is quite high. There's the financial element. And imagine being, and there's lots of people who I don't, who don't need to imagine this, being a private practitioner during a lockdown with all the COVID stuff going on. What's going through your head at that point? That's really 24/7, 365 stuff.
Yeah.
So I looked at it and went, okay, what would true freedom represent to me? What would my life be like if it was truly free? And my life's not truly free now, but it's certainly a lot better. And I just realized that the business wasn't providing me with what I needed. Nothing to do with podiatry, nothing to do with the patients. They were amazing. It's just, how can I have that freedom? And it wasn't providing it for me. So I just made that change.
So was it a little bit scary having this sit down conversation with yourself about what freedom means to you?
Oh God, yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, I was chatting to someone the other night, chatting to another podiatrist the other night, I haven't spoken to for a while. And he said to me, he said, it's really brave selling a practice and just not, and stopping your clinical practice at that point and going into coaching. And I thought about it and thought, I thought it was stupid at one point. I thought, what am I doing? Successful business. And then I'm going into something completely different. And I reflected on it and went, yeah, actually, having that big life change, it is brave. But I think the conversation about what freedom is for me and then making the decision to sell the practice is a far better conversation than the one which I might have had in 20 years' time going, why didn't I sell the practice? Why did I continue doing that? And I would have had an amazingly happy career as a podiatrist, but it was like, there would always be that bit of regret.
Yeah, that's so true. And it's about like soul satisfaction at the end of the day, isn't it? Like, it's not about your degree. It's not about degree classifications. I know like a lot of students coming up there, that's the one thing that's on their mind is, am I getting the best grades possible? Like, and then, because that ultimately is a reflection of ourselves, right? Like, am I being the best practitioner possible? Because that ultimately is a reflection of you. You're the practitioner, you're the student. So if it's kind of in a way, consuming your mind to the point where it's not helping you grow and it's kind of taking away your peace of mind. And I think that's probably, if I'm not wrong, that's probably what it did to you. Like, it was taking away your peace of mind. And for you, freedom probably means peace of mind.
Yeah, I know before we started recording, I was talking about this idea of, you were as this planet at the center of your universe, and then you have all of these things, all of these other planets which sit and in orbit. And what happens? 2015 had some big stuff going on in 2015. So, wife threw me out of the house for being an insufferable twat, essentially, which was right, because I was being one. I was using anger to kind of express myself, and it wasn't good. And that had been going on a while. So what I had to do is I had to go back and look at who I really was. And what happened is I shifted. At the time, podiatry was kind of the center of my universe. And what I did is I actually went, no, what I need to be is I need to be the center of the universe. And then I put podiatry into an orbit, and it got further and further away for me. And as I changed me, my priorities changed. What was important to me changed. What I wanted to focus on changed. And that was the big kind of, flip for me, was looking at what was really important. And when I think about podiatry, I love podiatry. I mean, it's saved my foot when I had an ulcer. I've got to have amazing conversations with people and relationships with people over the years. I've got to meet amazing people and do amazing things. But the thing which for me really makes the difference when it comes to podiatry is the work I do with Forgotten Feet. Because that for me is like, I'm able to really serve people at a level with a different type of pressure. I'm serving people who really, really, really need it, but they're not invested in terms of money. It's like I can just give to them my skills, and it's like, there you go, job done. So I enjoy that. So I do enjoy podiatry. It's just that business element at the time wasn't really what I wanted it to be. Change.
Wow.
Cool
Well,
stuff.
I mean, thank you for being that vulnerable, because it's, speaking from personal experience, it's not that easy, but I think people need to hear it. And it's probably like a very uncomfortable feeling, but people need to hear our vulnerabilities. And that's how you can, I think that's also another way you can inspire change.
I think that there's vulnerability is something we all struggle with, and I could even go more vulnerable on things, but the tissues are in the other room, and I'm warning a lot. But no, that there's this for me is the big part of personality, is you're putting your personality into things. You're having to be vulnerable. You're having to put things out there which maybe before you kind of protected and kept a bit covered, and risking judgment from people. But that's part of the fun.
Yeah. Yeah. I fully agree. It takes a bit of a while to reach that point. And I still struggle with it because, I am technically like, I'm in this country by myself, I'm on my own. So it would be wise for me to not be vulnerable and build like a little fort around me and just be very protected. But I think at the same time, being that isolated, it's going to end up backfiring. It's going to hurt me in the long run. And I think, I still struggle to make friends. I still struggle to have a deeper connection with people, because if you've been hurt in the past, you do want to build that shell around you. It's very, very like, it's very instinctive. You're like, nope, I've been hurt here before. I'm not going to do that again. And it's like what we were talking about before we press record. Like we were talking about how our brains we want to recognize pattern. We function on that gut feeling because it is just a pattern system. But then being vulnerable, it's breaking that pattern, which I think is very important.
So I'm going to say thank you for being vulnerable there, because the stuff the way that you come across to people is very confident, very, very self-assured, and for you to turn around and say, actually, I struggle with certain things, I struggle with making friends and things like that. That is really vulnerable. And there's so much in there's a message for me there about being vulnerable, about having the courage to do that. There's also a message about the fact that you can go out there and be yourself, but still at the same time have work that you need to do and feel vulnerable and be an introvert. You can do all of this. This all fits together.
Yeah.
Not a problem. Thank you.
My pleasure.
You're welcome.
I get that a lot. Like, you're not the first person to tell me like that I come across quite confident. So I was talking to one of my classmates about my anxiety. I struggle with anxiety a lot. Like there's some days are good. Some days are quite I just don't want to leave my room. And it's like that negative self-talk loop. I just can't seem to get out of it. And I just want to cocoon up in a shell. But that, I think it's a little bit different because all that stuff is internal. And I think that if I make it quite external, I will push people away. So I feel like for me, I feel the need to be confident, if that makes sense, to kind of combat the internal struggle that's going on. And if you look at a lot of people that are, let's say a little bit cocky, confidence, but on the cockier side, they're actually like, it's quite easy to tell that what they're struggling with is a lot of insecurity and a lot of like issues internally, but outwards, they kind of portray the exact opposite to kind of counter that internal conflict, if that makes sense. I got very like therapy right now, but sometimes that there is that fine balance that you need to maintain. And we all struggle with something. There's not one person. If one person tells you, oh yeah, I don't struggle with anything, they are lying. Run.
Yeah.
You run from that person, girl.
No, you're right. And actually it's being open and honest about how we are suffering from things. I'm just going to close this window because someone's just come up and started delivering things outside my house, which might get the audio. We'll see. Done. Yeah, we've all got something going on, and the time when the time is right to talk about it, it's right to talk about it. But with the coaching I do, one of the things I say to people is it's about me providing a safe space for you to express yourself, so that when you express yourself, you can feel safe. And I think that's where a lot of people struggle, is that they feel that they can't say what they're thinking or what they're feeling because they don't feel safe to say it. And that's tough. I think we've all been there. We've all been there. But when you do express yourself and you do it from a place of safety, you suddenly realize that actually you were safe all along. And you're speaking what's true for you. And that's when it becomes really quite fun.
I agree. And I think this is a great place to end our conversation because I'm starving. I'm hungry. I've not had breakfast.
Yeah. Not that you're boring, Dave, but I'm just hungry. Okay.
I'm sorry, girl, but I need another cup of coffee. I had one before we started recording, and then when I press record, I'm like, oh, shit, I'm on my last couple sips, and I need coffee and I need food, and I really need to finish this presentation because it's not going to finish itself.
Do it.
I'm still not done yet. Please don't tell anyone.
Yeah, you've just told everyone and recorded it, and you're probably going to put it out on social media at some point. I think people might find out if they've lasted this long. They'll find out.
Did I do that? Oh no, God, oh no, what have I done?
Yeah.
But it was lovely talking to you. I love our conversations. Every time I think I've spoken to you, I'm like, I should have recorded this. And this morning, like I have no makeup on, my hair's not done, and I'm like, I'll record this. I'll plan it. I'll record it later. But no, this is better, I think.
Yeah, I was gonna actually have a proper shave and do my hair as well, but I haven't.
You look great. You look great.
You look wonderful too. You look beautiful.
Thanks.
A beautiful girlfriend.
Thanks, girl. I need to...
I'm doing that. I'm like far too old to start doing that. We do clicking, and I can't do that.
I know there's some sass in you, Dave. You wore that wig for me in that video. That was fantastic. Can you please bring it to the show?
I've got to fix it and find it with moving house. I might have disappeared actually. I might have to get another one. I might have to do a different color one though this time.
Do red. Or you could do red and blue. I picked a dress for the presentation. It's gonna be a navy blue dress with red stripes. So maybe you could do something like that with the hair. Okay. We could be matching.
I'm not. You want me to wear a dress as well?
Could you? I'd never say no.
That's a whole other conversation.
Right. Anyways, thank you so much for joining me. You are simply amazing, and I cannot wait to actually see you all in person at the Foot and Ankle show. It's going to be crazy.
Looking forward to it. Yeah. No, thank you, mate. You are amazing. Thank you.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye. See you later. Bye.